of self-discipline with a greater purpose. Coach Leighton, welcome.
Thanks for the introduction. Thanks, Warriors, for joining me today. I really appreciate the opportunity. I've had a great time over the past couple of weeks getting a chance to watch some of these webinars, and appreciate everyone jumping on and being here today. So the title of today is Self-Discipline with a Greater Purpose. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to do as far as a presentation, I wanted to make sure that I could speak to something that I try to hold myself to, as well as also something that I want all my athletes to do as well. So as I was looking and thinking about different ideas, I thought one of the things that I've been, I guess, known for over the years is just my discipline with the way I, approach each day. So what I'm going to try to do today is give you a sense for what my story is, where I started, where I'm at right now, and how I've gone on this journey of self-discipline. But more importantly, try to tell you a few stories that I have about some athletes who I've worked with in the past who've also shown me that type of discipline over the years. And just like anything, discipline isn't something that's going to be perfect, and it's not necessarily linear growth, and it's not necessarily growth every single year. We're going to have some bumps in the road along the way. So to begin, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what is self-discipline as far as what you might see self-discipline to be. I think that all of us know that discipline oftentimes becomes things that we most likely know what they are, and we know we know what we should do, but it's whether we really want to do that or not. And I'll go into some ideas as far as things that I think we know we should do, but we don't always want to do that. More importantly, when I think about this self-discipline, and as you're listening today, I hope that each of you think about what things you can do in order to maybe add just a little bit of discipline to your life, is thinking about what your anchors are. What are those things each day, or what are those things each year that you anchor yourself to, and things that you want to do in order to really be just a little bit more disciplined. So for me, like, my anchors each day are when I wake up and the fact that I make it to the gym. So I make sure that I wake up each morning with an alarm, and I make sure that I get to the gym at some point during the day. And as long as I get that in, everything else seems to fall into place. And it's not that I spend 12 hours at the gym, not at all. But those are two things to me that that really help me out. And when I think about athletes, like, what does that take? What is that going to be for you? It might be an additional workout that you choose to put in each day on top of what you normally do. Maybe it's something like extra stretching. Maybe it's watching more film. But it's just something that you choose to add each day that's going to make yourself just a little bit special. I also think with self-discipline, it's not complicated. It's not difficult to figure out what that is. But what's challenging is making sure that you do it each day. And that's the piece of discipline, is being able to do it on a consistent basis. One of the things that I've always lived by, two ideas, is the idea that consistency is the mark of a champion. And I'm never going to tell anyone that I'm the best tennis player in the world, the best coach in the world, or the best math teacher in the world. But what I do try to bring each day is I do try to be consistent. And sometimes I'm a little bit consistent to a fault, because sometimes when you're too consistent, you're not creative enough, or you're not coming up with something that's exciting enough. And then the other thing that I joke people about is the day that every day is a day to work. And we don't want to work every day. We definitely need to take some time away. But this idea of making sure that you have an opportunity to do something every day, and make sure that you get that done by the end of the day. So what are the reasons for self-discipline? So to me, thinking about self-discipline is this idea of, can it help you achieve? Can it help give you an edge? And as far as giving an edge, can it give you an edge in the athletic field? Can it give you an edge in the classroom? Can it give you an edge at your job? And I know that when I talk about that, it starts sounding very self-centered and very independent, but I'll get into this idea as far as where that can help us in other places in our life. Excellence occurs over time, and you have to be deliberate, and you have to show intentional effort over that time. And it's not easy to do, but it's something that we have to do on a regular basis. I also believe that if you show self-discipline on a daily basis, that will help you take care of confidence and also take care of mental toughness. So often we talk about, like, what does it take or what is it like to be mentally tough? And it's hard to describe, but I think that when you are self-disciplined, you give yourself that confidence and you give yourself the ability to, when it matters the most, to figure out the ability or a way to rise to the occasion. Whether it's making a final shot, whether it's doing something significant in the middle of the game, because everything that happens significant isn't always the last shot. But you have that confidence to do great things in big moments. But what I also think is, I think in this idea that one of the things that we have to do is we have to use self-discipline so we can be a role model, we can be a better teammate, we can have positive effects on both our team, our friends, and our family. And that's what people will look at you if you can show that discipline on a daily basis. You will have people who look up to you. You'll have people who will say that you're a role model. Those are the things that oftentimes when people, whether they realize it or not, those are the things that they're looking for when they're looking to see a captain on their team. Is that person showing up every day to work? Not some days to work, but every day to work. And again, they're working hard. We know that they're working hard, but it doesn't mean that it's also this brutal work that is something that we can't sustain over time. When I first started teaching, I thought that I had all of the answers. Like, I was sure by 25 that I knew everything that I needed to know in the classroom and on the tennis court. And I was really good at telling people what they should do, whether it was math, whether it was like a short idea about life, or whether it was on the tennis court. And I realized that I kept telling people, and that really isn't the way that I should be a good coach or good person. And rather, I got a little bit smarter in my old age and really tried to give people more of an idea as far as what I do or what I think could be good ideas. And then you yourself, you have to make those choices. You have to decide, are you going to make a similar choice or some other choice? It's really about you making those choices. My story right now, where I'm at in my life, my alarm goes off at 4:01. And I was in our math office the other day, and they started joking about the Progressive commercials, how no one cares what time you wake up in the morning. And that's fine. But for me, my alarm goes off at 4:01. Do I want to wake up? No, I don't want to wake up, but I know that I need to. So I hit that alarm, and yes, sometimes I do hit that snooze. I set it for 4:01, so if I do snooze, it's only until 4:10. And then I wake up, and then I get things done. What do? Everyone asks, what do? I wake up, I make some coffee. Sometimes I put away dishes. Sometimes I've got to iron my clothes for school. I make my lunch. I do all of those little things that we need to do. And then on top of that, what I do is I take that time when no one's awake, when no one is there to interfere with my work, to just sit down and look at my Schoology page. I can enter grades in. I can think about what I'm going to do that day. I can be crazy and post my Schoology updates at 4:47 in the morning that unfortunately some students can have to read. But those are the things that I do. And then by the time it gets to, and then every now and then, I might read a few articles on my phone and just make sure that I know what's going on. And then from there, I find a time somewhere between 5:30, 5:45, I get to the gym. And to me, that's my happy place. I need my 45 minutes. What are my anchors at the gym? I do 15 minutes on the treadmill. I always do a little bit of leg work, and I do pull-ups. Those are my favorite things. And then on top of that, I add all the other things. But I tell you this in the fact that I love that I found a workout that doesn't kill me and doesn't make me not want to go to the gym. And I think too often we find those workouts that are just so brutal that we just don't want to do it. And I'm not saying there isn't a time for that, but understand that there are things in your life that you can do, those small changes that you can make that aren't extremely difficult once you get doing them, but you just have to go out and do it. And I know that I need to do this because if I don't, Like, I don't respond very well. I used to joke in my classes about like whether I missed a workout. And I remember one day I came to class and I guess I was a little cranky or something. And someone was like, Mr. Leighton, did you miss your workout today? I'm like, yeah, I did. She's like, I know you missed your workout because you are not acting the same way. But again, that's for me. I don't expect everyone in this room or everyone who listens to this webinar that like, you have to wake up in the morning, you have to get that workout in before school. But that's something that works for me. And so whether that happens at 9 o'clock at night or whether that happens at like 5 o'clock in the morning, to find that time, maybe it's a lunchtime workout, who knows? But those are the little things that I've been able to do. And it's taken me a while. Like, sure, there are some things about me that are very similar to things that I did, you know, back when I was in 4th grade. Like, I remember the day in 4th grade when I woke up and I decided, you know what? I'm going to take a shower before school every day this year. I remember my mom and my dad making fun of me. They're like, when did you take a shower? I'm like, I don't know. And then they're like, well, it's probably time to take a shower. So I decided in 4th grade that I was going to wake up at 6:20 in the morning. I was going to watch the weather because at the time we didn't have cable, so it was only on PBS. I could watch weather from 6:20 to 6:30. I would take my shower, I'd make my breakfast, and I'd make sure I was the first one at the bus stop. But again, like, that's what I did because it worked for me. Why did I get to that bus stop a half hour before the bus got there? I don't know. Like, to this day, I don't know. But I remember sitting out there on Dundee Road, like, counting cars. But that's what I did to start my day, and that's what made me who it made me. Now, there was one girl who one time beat me to the bus stop, and then the next day I showed up 15 minutes earlier than her. And after she kept on trying to get there earlier than me, she figured out she wasn't going to beat me, and then she just gave up. But I made sure that I had that discipline to be the first to the bus stop. Now, whether it's waking up at the same time every day, whether it's being first to the bus stop, whatever it is, you've got to find something that you do that will make you better, make you a little bit more consistent. But again, you have to find that. Over the years, I've been extremely blessed to work with some fantastic tennis players. And I knew that when I had the opportunity to come to Deerfield in the fall of 2005, that I was going to have some great people to work with. Fortunately, before that, when I taught at Palatine High School, my first year teaching, someone walked up to me and said, hey, do you know this kid named Tom Hannes? I'm like, no, I just graduated from college. He's like some like freshman in high school. Who is this guy? They're like, he's really good. I'm like, all right, we'll see how good this guy is. So I walked into his math class, I think the second week of school. I'm like, hey, Tom, my name's Coach Leighton. I'm the boys frosh soft tennis coach. I know I'm not going to be able to work with you this year, but I'm really interested in meeting you, whatever. I'm like, you want to hit sometime? So I hit with this guy. I'm like, it's fine. I'm 22 years old. I just graduated from college. I'm going to take care of this guy. And we went out and hit, and oh my gosh, this guy was so good. Like, he was 5'9" and lean, and he hit the ball harder than any 14-year-old kid I had ever seen in my life. I'm like, this guy's gonna be really good. And so we got a chance to hit a little bit. I got a chance to know him a little bit. And so we built a little bit of a relationship. I got to know his parents, his little brother. And so when we started season, I was a frosh soft coach. He was on the varsity team. So we would hit sometimes afterwards. But what I did know that he didn't know is how tough the state tournament was. Not necessarily for the competition, but how intense the physical pain of getting through a boys state tournament is, and girls state tournament. You have to play anywhere from 7 to 10 matches over a 3-day period. And at the time, all of them were 3 sets, and they could be, again, you could spend anywhere from 6 to 8 hours on a court 3 days in a row, and doing that for anything is really taxing. So I would ask him questions like, hey, Tom, what are you doing outside of what you're doing in practice to compete? Because the other guys in his team, they were good, but they weren't at his level. They weren't gonna have to play singles all day. And he's like, oh, I'm doing some fitness. And, I'd ask him, throughout the season, because I had my team. I'm like, did you do your fitness? He said, yeah, coach, I did my fitness. I'm like, okay, I didn't really see anything. He's like, oh, I did it when I got home. I'm like, I'm sure you did. Goes to the state tournament. The guy's undefeated as a freshman going into the state tournament. Gets to the round of 16. Has a guy who he should beat who's a senior. And this guy went toe-to-toe with Tom. Tom played great, ultimately wound up losing in 3 sets. And then the next match was so exhausted, he had to default out of the back draw. So his freshman year, undefeated going in the state tournament, winds up losing in the round of 16, defaults out of the back draw. I knew how angry he was. I was going to go up like that afternoon and be like, hey, did you condition enough? I waited a few days. I talked to him and I'm like, hey, Tom, like, you know, again, I am not the one who's here who's going to teach you how to hit a forehand, teach you how to hit a backhand. But what I can do is I can talk to you and teach you a little bit about fitness, because I've had a long journey myself as far as what that fitness is and what I think would be helpful. And I said, you've got a long summer ahead of you. You're going to go ahead and play. We'll hit from time to time. But when we get next your sophomore year, let's figure out a way we can do this. So we sat down and we figured out a plan. And every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday, it was he and I, 3:30 to or 3:45 to basically like 5:15, 5:30 every day. We would run, we would lift, we would do like all the things. I felt like I was a high school kid again. And I did it for the entire year. And I knew that I did it because of a few things. Like I was 23, like what else was I gonna do? So I figured out a way to get my own like personal workout with him. And he was able to find that time in his day aside from also playing tennis. And sure, there were days that we missed, but we had this dedication. We had this plan that we were gonna try to execute together. And it worked. Like, how did it work? Well, again, I was the soft coach. He was on the varsity team. I would ask him like, hey, did you condition? And I would see him, after practice when everyone left. He was out there running sprints by himself. I knew what he was doing outside of practice. He was going out and doing extra hitting. And he literally did everything that you could ask someone to do in order to get to that next level. And again, he was undefeated throughout the regular season, goes into the state tournament as the 1 seed. And he wins match after match after match after match. And luckily I had a chance to watch him play the entire state tournament. And undefeated season, won the state tournament. It's like, wow, that's pretty impressive. So now you've got a kid who's finished 2 years of high school tennis and he has 2 losses, one as a freshman and then one as a default his freshman year at the state tournament. But what happens? What does everyone talk about once you win once? What's the hardest thing to do? It's to win twice. So what does he do the next year? He did everything he was supposed to do. Did we do our workouts together? No, like he had grown up and had different things. Like he was training after school, like leaving school early and training and then coming back. And I would check in with him to see how things were going. But he just wasn't doing everything that he was doing before. He was doing a lot. He was becoming a better tennis player. I mean, he was a top 40 tennis player in the country and he continued to get better and everything was fine. And he was undefeated during the regular season, of course, right? Like, how's it going to change? And then gets into the state tournament, wins every match, gets to the state finals. And he's in a state final against a pretty good player, someone who he should beat. And what happens? Oh, like all of a sudden it's a little bit cool in the indoor place we're playing, pulls us back, fights through it, winds up losing in 3 sets. So again, undefeated season, loses in the finals. Most people look at that like that's a terrific season. This guy's so angry, like I don't even want to talk to him for like 4 days. Then we sat down. Hey, Tom, did you do everything you were supposed to do this year? Probably not. What was it? Probably was that fitness. That was that extra self-discipline. Those were the things that you did the year before. Do you want to let this happen again? No. Again, I'm not the one that's out there every day with him. I'm not the one who's grinding and doing suicides with him and running all over the place. Like, my goal is to give him ideas and to see what he does and see how he executes that plan. So then he, again, has a great summer, trains in the off season. I became the varsity coach his senior year. And the discipline that he showed during not only that off season, but all 3 seasons leading up to that, whether he realized it or not, created this team that we never thought possible. And we had a special group of guys. We had these guys who had never beat teams in our conference at the time. And not only did he, of course, did he himself win conference, but he helped a team win conference at a school that had been open since 1865 and had won 0 conference titles. Literally 0. That's a long time. That's like 140 years. Now, granted, they didn't have tennis for 140 years, but I like to exaggerate a little bit. But they did have tennis for probably 90 of those years and 0 conference champions. But his self-discipline, his work, again, whether he realized it or not, inspired all of these other people to work on their game during the off season, to do their physical training. And that's what we did. You know, I worked with those other guys and we did that training. And the idea is that you do that work and you are able to inspire other people. And that's what he did. Oh, to finish the story, yes, undefeated season, 1 state, 138-3 over a 4-year high school career. Pretty impressive. You know, 2-time state champ. And then he went on to Northwestern. He played 8 matches at 3 singles. And then every other match he played the rest of his freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year was at 1 singles. So when you think about someone who really showed discipline and showed the ability to push himself on a daily basis, that's what it looks like. But again, as I said earlier, it sounds selfish, but it isn't. Because what he did helped a group of guys win something that had never been done before and will never be done, that may never be done again. I hope it is. But those are the things that you can do if you show that discipline. And hopefully you get a couple of guys, a couple of girls to do that along the way. Like hopefully it isn't just you. Hopefully it is you going to the gym with 2 or 3 friends, whether it's before school, whether it's after school. But those are the things that you have to think about doing. And it's not always fitness. It might be watching film. That's not my favorite thing to do, and it might not be your favorite thing to do, but that might be the difference, depending on what your sport is. Maybe it's flexibility. I'm not the most flexible guy in the world, but I made sure that I did my extra hamstring stretches when I was in high school and college because I knew it made me a little bit better the next day. So I had this idea that I was going to be able to tell a couple of stories, but of course, and like I ran a little bit out of time. But kind of in conclusion, what I want you to think about is what changes can you make to yourself in your daily life, in your weekly life, monthly, seasonal life that can affect, again, not only you, but affect people around you. Again, is it people on your team? Is it people in your classroom? Can you be the one who actually unmutes and says something during a Zoom? Can you actually be the one who's the first one to write in the chat? Can you be the first one in a hybrid experience to say something? Those are the things. Are you disciplined that you will show up in person on your test day? Like, those are all the little things. And I know it's funny, and I know we talk about those things, but those are the things that make a difference. And those are the things that we as teachers and we as coaches know make a difference. And that's what I ask you to do. I don't know what that thing is. And I don't know what that thing is for you, but I hope that you can figure that out. And I hope that you can use that to your advantage. That is always our goal. Our goal is always to help all of you maximize your talents in the classroom, on a court, in a field, wherever that is. That is my #1 goal as a coach, and I know that's what everyone wants. So I appreciate all of you spending the time to be here and to listen. And for those of you who are listening on a pre-recording, hopefully you didn't have to fast forward too much. But again, I loved being here and having the opportunity to talk to all of you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to stay in the Zoom. Otherwise, best of luck being disciplined.
Awesome job. Thank you so much, Coach. Great stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome, Coach. Thank you. And for everyone who's still on, just so you know, this is our last Warrior webinar until further notice. So thank you for everyone who's tuned in, and thank you, Coach Leighton.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Appreciate it.
Coming. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks. Good job.
Thank you. I'm sure the boys were listening too.
They were reading books, but then also watching.
All
All right, bye, thanks.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks so much for giving me the chance, guys. I really appreciate it.
Coach, we appreciate you. Are you kidding me? Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
I love the bus stop story.